A year back, we promised to love each other forever. I was sure I wanted to be with this kind man. But things changed after we got married. The sweet guy I knew disappeared. Now he treats me like a maid, not his wife. He always tells me to be quiet and just listen to him. I wonder how long this will go on. Little did I know, something good was about to happen. Hi, I'm Michelle Jenkins, 28 years old. I work as a secretary at my dad's company and also manage our home. My dad took over the business from my grandpa 2 years ago. Being the boss's daughter, guys usually approach me for money. I've never really been in love before. I stopped talking about my family to avoid attracting gold diggers. That's when I met David, the man who became my husband. I asked my friend who introduced us to not mention that I'm the boss's daughter. David doesn't gamble or smoke, and he drinks moderately. He was my dream guy, always telling me he loved and adored me. I thought I could spend my life with him. But when I told my dad about marrying David, he said, "Michelle, it's okay to marry him, but don't let him know you're the boss's daughter." I argued, "Dad, he's a good person. He's not after money." Dad insisted, "I don't want you to have problems. Let's revisit this after a year of marriage. If David stays the same, we'll talk about the company." Reluctantly, I agreed. Dad knew about my past bad experiences with guys after money. He just wanted to protect me. I decided to follow Dad's advice and keep quiet about being the boss's daughter for a year. Until then, I'd just be a regular secretary. So despite everything, David and I tied the knot. But now, a year later, I still haven't told him the truth. Why? Because he's changed. After the wedding, he became distant and cold. He'd come home from work in a bad mood, criticizing everything, even the dinners I made. "Hamburgers again? We're not kids. Can't you cook something different?" "But David, you used to love them. I've made them lots before." "Don't argue. You always make the same dishes. Besides salad and soup, you should know how to cook at least 5 other things." "5? That's too much. I have work too, you know. When I ask you to do something, you should do it. I married you, so listen to me." I'm sorry." The warmth and kindness he once had vanished, replaced by a coldness that felt as sharp as ice. At first, I thought he was just having a rough day, but things kept getting worse. After 6 months of marriage, David turned into a full-blown tyrant. He'd nitpick about everything, from how I did the laundry to how I cleaned the house. If I dared to speak up, he'd yell at me with a terrifying look. Enduring his yelling was one thing, but sometimes he'd even throw away the meals I cooked. A year into our marriage, his tyrannical behavior hasn't changed. If anything, it's gotten worse. Just the other day, I got home late from work, and he immediately started shouting. "You're late. Do you even know what time it is?" I'm sorry. Work got busy. I'll start dinner now." "Busy? A secretary like you shouldn't have that much work. If you're late again, you're quitting your job." But that's not fair. I couldn't argue with him out of fear. Looking back, I wonder if I should have left him sooner. Despite my parents' concerns, I kept the truth hidden after getting married. I didn't want to disappoint them, so I dealt with everything silently. Then one day at work, my father called me into the reception room during a break. Since I often helped him as a secretary, going into the reception room wasn't unusual. When I entered, my father was already there. "What's up?" I asked. My father looked pleased and said, "It's been a year since you married David, right? Time to tell him the truth, like you promised." "Oh yeah, we agreed on that. Is something wrong? You seem uneasy." "Well, yes, but it's just, right now things are a bit." Seeing my worried face, my father smiled and patted my shoulder. "Had a spat with David? It happens, especially for newlyweds like you. Your mom and I had our share of arguments too. But look at us now, still happy together. You'll be fine, Michelle. It's not exactly a fight. Don't worry, everything will be okay. Couples argue, right?" "You're right. Anything else bothering you?" "No, I'm okay. Nothing else. But I think I'll wait for things to calm down a bit before bringing it up," I said. "Don't let it bother you too much. Every couple has their disagreements." My father reassured me, thinking it was just a small argument. I hadn't confided in my parents about David's behavior to spare them worry, so my father assumed everything was fine. You should make amends with David soon, he advised before leaving the room. Alone, I wrestled with emotions I couldn't articulate. Despite my parents' reservations, I had married David. I couldn't bear to tell my father about our worsening relationship. But I knew I couldn't avoid it forever. I'd have to address it eventually to avoid suspicion. To keep my father from worrying, I had to maintain my marriage somehow. If possible, I wanted to improve our relationship. That night, I made sure to be home on time, ready to talk to David when he returned. As I finished preparing dinner, he walked through the door. I brought up the topic right away. "David, we need to talk," I said. "I'm tired," he complained. "This is important," I insisted. "As a married couple, I want us to share our lives equally and be happy together." "Equal? You and me? That's ridiculous," he scoffed, grabbing my hair harshly. "Ouch!" I cried out, but he didn't let go. "Listen to me. I did you a favor by marrying you. You should be grateful I chose you," he said, sneering at my pain. "But you said you loved me," I protested. "Don't be foolish. I only pretended to like you because you're obedient and good at housework," he spat. "Just stay quiet and obey me," he ordered, pulling my hair closer to his face. From that moment on, I realized there was no hope for equality in our relationship. I couldn't bear to worry my parents, and divorce wasn't an option. My appetite faded away with each passing day, and I found myself merely coexisting with my roommate, who happened to be my husband. Then one morning, amidst this routine, I woke up feeling utterly drained. My head throbbed, and a chill ran through my body. Checking my temperature, I found it to be a high 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Summoning all my strength, I sat up and called out to my husband. "David, I'm sorry. I don't think I can manage breakfast today." "What? Why not?" I pleaded. "I have a fever of 104. I'm in agony. Can I just stay in bed?" In response, my husband let out a frustrated sigh and snapped. "Neglecting your duties because of a fever? Get to work, you lazy thing. But please understand, I'm really unwell. Enough excuses. You're just a maid. Don't you dare disobey me. Please, just for today, I'm begging you." With a loud click of his tongue, he stormed out of the room, leaving me trembling uncontrollably. I finally realized I was being pushed to my limit. If I keep going like this, I'll truly break down. This way of life will drive me insane, both mentally and physically. I know I need to take action, but I'm too exhausted to think clearly with this fever clouding my mind. Maybe it's the stress catching up to me, but I drift back to sleep. Hours later, I'm jolted awake by my husband's furious voice. "Didn't I tell you to wake up, you idiot?" Confused, I see it's already dark outside. While my fever has dropped, I still feel weak with a lingering headache. Despite my condition, he continues his tirade. "I called you several times. What were you doing sleeping, called? I sent you a text that I'm bringing my boss home. Weren't you supposed to prepare drinks and snacks?" My husband demanded. "Wait a minute. You knew I was sick today, right? And yet you brought your boss home?" I invited him to continue drinking at home. "My promotion depends on this. Get up and get things ready now." "No, I can't. I'm still in my pajamas, and I'm not feeling well at all. Stop making excuses. Just get out here now." He yanked me by the arm and forced me to stand in the kitchen, then hurried back to his boss. "Sorry to keep you waiting. Please come on in." I could hear my husband speaking cheerily from the entrance. "Are you sure this is okay this late? I'm sure your wife wouldn't appreciate." "That's what I've been saying. I don't have a wife, just a housemaid." "I'm a housemaid. Kind of like a main wife, you could say. But please don't mind." With that, my husband ushered his boss into the living room. I stood in my pajamas, feeling embarrassed and makeup-free. "Nice to meet you. My husband talks about you often." "I apologize for my appearance," I said, bowing my head. "Ah, I'm Mr. Smith, the section chief. I'm sorry for dropping by unannounced." "Please don't worry about me. I'll prepare something right away," you replied. As I hurried back to the kitchen, hiding my face, my husband started scolding me. Hurry up and make something. You're utterly useless, he berated. I'm sorry. Just give me a moment, I pleaded. Stop talking and start working, he snapped. How much more embarrassing do you need to be, even with the section chief here? I'm sorry. I apologize, Mr. Smith. Our maid is quite incompetent, my husband explained. The section chief remained silent, his expression tense. Despite my efforts to prepare drinks and snacks, my husband continued to make cutting remarks like, "You're really useless." While my husband was in the bathroom, Section Chief Smith initiated a conversation. "Excuse me." I couldn't ignore him, so despite feeling flustered, I responded, "Yes, is there something you need?" "You're CEO Allen's daughter, aren't you?" My last name used to be Allen, I confirmed, realizing he meant my father, CEO Allen. "How did you know?" "I visited your father's company for business before. You served me tea once, right?" "Wait, you were from that time?" I typically attended meetings with our business partners, serving tea and being introduced as Mr. Allen's daughter. Smith was one of those people. Although David's workplace had become a client of my father's company, I hadn't told my father that David worked there. Glancing towards the bathroom, Smith continued in a hushed tone. "What's going on with your husband's behavior? Is he always like this at home?" Yes, I admitted. "I can't believe what you've been enduring. Why haven't you told Mr. Allen?" "Well, regardless, this can't continue." "Leave it to me," Smith said, looking me straight in the eyes as he quickly packed up and left. In that moment, I felt a weight being lifted off my shoulders. It was like finding an ally in a moment of despair. When David returned from the bathroom, he was shocked to find that Smith had left. "Why didn't you stop him?" he yelled at me. But I chose to trust Smith's words and endure it. Several days later, I was called to my father's company and found both Smith and a visibly shaken David waiting. "What's going on? Why are you both here?" I asked, confused by the situation. In the tense atmosphere, my father addressed me with a serious expression. "I heard from Smith. You've been mistreated by David, haven't you?" Well, I struggled to respond. Understanding my intentions to spare him worry, my father expressed his gratitude. "Thank you, Smith, for bringing this to my attention and helping my daughter," my father said, and Smith bowed in acknowledgement. Then my father turned his stern gaze towards David. "David, I can't believe you've behaved this way. I regret allowing you to marry my daughter." "Please wait," David pleaded, visibly shaken. "I had no idea you were our business partner's president." "I didn't know Michelle was a CEO's daughter," David interjected. "Enough. So if you did know, you would have treated Michelle better." "You're truly despicable," my father rebuked. "No, there's no excuse for my behavior," David responded. "Excuses? I'm going to report you to your company's CEO. We have a long-standing relationship," my father declared. "No, please." David's eyes welled up with tears as he sank to his knees. Then he turned to me, pleading, "Michelle, please talk to your father for me." "You want me to speak up?" I raised my voice, releasing my pent-up frustrations. "Do you have any idea how much I've suffered because of your controlling, chauvinistic behavior? I've endured it silently, trying to salvage our relationship. But you destroyed everything, treating me like a servant and constantly belittling me. Do you know how degrading that was?" "Michelle, please forgive me," David begged. "Enough. Don't you dare address me by my name so casually. No amount of apologies will ever be enough. I don't care what happens to you. You reap what you sow. If you understand, stay out of my life forever," I concluded, resolute in my decision. At the climax of my outburst, David broke down in tears. Smith gently guided him out of the reception room, offering a respectful bow before leaving. Eventually, David and I decided to divorce. When my father informed David's company's president about the incident, he lost his job due to poor behavior at work. Without any severance pay, David moved back in with his parents, who were already aware of the situation. His father reprimanded him severely and forced him to leave their home. Now, David works long hours at a factory to make ends meet, while also fulfilling his alimony obligations to me. Meanwhile, I returned to my parents' home after the divorce and focused on rebuilding my life. I've since fully recovered and dedicated myself to my career. I've maintained a close friendship with Smith, meeting him regularly. Although I'm not considering remarriage at the moment, if I do decide to tie the knot again, I hope to find someone like him. When that time comes, my dream is to create a happy and fulfilling family.